My name is Alan Chalker, and I'm one of the co-PIs on the Open OnDemand team. Also with me today is Jeff Ostrom and Travis Raver. Jeff will be talking a bit here in a little bit. We've got, I'm just looking at the participants, we've got some of our other colleagues from OSC, some of our colleagues from University of Buffalo who are on the project team, and I don't see Bob Settlage. I thought he was going to be on here, but from Virginia Tech. The session today, we're getting a little bit started, but I'm going to try to end it right on time. I've got a few slides that I'm going to just give a brief overview of Open OnDemand for any of you who might not be familiar. Most of you, I assume, are familiar in some form or fashion, but I don't want to assume that for everybody. So a few slides on that. And then Jeff is going to talk about some of the kind of app inclusion integration aspects of Open OnDemand. So we wanted to really kind of channel the spirit of gateways and assume that many people that are attending might have their own gateway or have their particular app that they're interested in. So we want to talk a little bit about ways that you could integrate that into Open OnDemand. I will, so let me just go ahead and jump in, and happy to field any questions. And I don't have the chat open. I should open that up on my end. Or if you want, raise your hand. I am looking at the participant screen. Okay. First off, what is Open OnDemand? Well, it's basically an interface to remote computing resources. It is something that allows you to just use the web from any device. Doesn't have to be your laptop. It can be a cell phone, a tablet, whatever. I've done it from my Tesla car to connect to typically HPC, but resource computing resources. So as an end user, it really makes it streamlines the ability for you to access those resources. If you're on the kind of research computing staff side of this, it allows more effective utilization and access to your resources. So at the end of the day, it just lets people use these resources faster and more efficiently. And to demonstrate that, this is a little bit of an old chart, but some just impact at OSC. We obviously run it at OSC. You can see here that since the introduction about a little over 4 or 5 years ago, the number of clients that on a month-to-month basis that use OnDemand at OSC have gotten to the point where it's pretty much everybody. There's a very small minority of our clients come in through traditional methods like SSH terminals or things like that. And in the analysis of logs, we've seen that people that come in for the first time through Open OnDemand get to their first job much faster than through traditional SSH methods. Now, Open OnDemand is what we call the overall platform. This is the OSC's installation of Open OnDemand. We don't have some great ways of tracking where Open OnDemand is in use. We are able to look at our RPM logs to see who's pulling it down. We know that there's about 200 unique locations around the world that access and pull down the RPMs for Open OnDemand. And then we do have people that self-identify or through press releases identify. So here's a nice slide that shows all kinds of logos of places we know have production deployments. So there's a lot of people that also we know are evaluating or considering it. I'll just make the standard call I make here that if you are using Open OnDemand and your logo is not on here, please let us know. Really want to hear that, because NSF funds us, and they're funding us to build this community and expand the community. And so we need to report back to them about the size of the community. The best way to do that is by giving them slides like this and list of names on there. So high level, you want to know anything else about Open OnDemand, please just go to our website, openondemand.org. There you can see the actual GitHub, the code repo, read the documentation on how to configure and install it. While you're welcome to reach out to me through various channels, I really encourage everybody to use our Discourse instance. Discourse is a kind of online message board / mailing list to ask questions, because it creates a record that's searchable. So you can, if you have a question on something, you might want to first go to Discourse and just search for some keyword terms and see if somebody else already has asked about it. We do have mailing lists, and we have webinars that actually I need to update this. They're no longer quarterly; they're happening more frequently. So we now are having standing webinars every month. There's I think it's the first Thursday of the month. We've got a tips and tricks webinar that the community led. It's not me talking; it's just somebody in the community talking about tips and tricks that they've found. And then we have the second Tuesday of the month now. We're going to have open office hour webinars, and all this details are on Discourse if you want to see them. Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff to talk a little bit about configuring software in particular. And Jeff, I'm going to see if I can give you control. I don't know if I can. I can't. So just tell me when you want me to advance.
Okay, cool. Okay, so on-demand apps. So the whole idea with on-demand apps is you can develop and run apps in your home directory initially, if you're enabled as a web developer. And then you push those out to the var www apps directory on the web host. So they become public for other folks. And so that's where you put public apps that your customers will see. Alan, you switched to Slack. Let's next slide, please. Okay, so different types of apps. So we have what we call interactive app plugins, and that is our sort of bread and butter. A lot of you folks probably already run these. You run Jupyter, MATLAB, RStudio. These are what we call batch connect apps. And they are just a few config files to describe the form, a few config files to actually run the job whenever it's running. But they're pretty sort of simple in their development. Passenger apps, on the other hand, are full stack web apps. So they're Python, Ruby, Node.js. The dashboard is actually a passenger app. The job composer is a passenger app. The shell app is a passenger app. So these are applications that are full stack. They provide a lot of pages for the user, and they have their own sort of environment dependencies. But they always run as the user too. So they always, whenever you launch an app, you're always acting as that user. Next slide, please. These next slides, I think, are about 2.0 updates. So these are updates we put in Open On-Demand 2.0. The first one is pinning apps to the dashboard. So you see here on the left, I've pinned a bunch of apps to the dashboard's landing page. So as soon as you land on Open On-Demand, you can have these icons there to sort of give prominence to some special apps that you like. On the right-hand side is the same thing, but we've started to group them. So you can group them by, what they do, like clusters and files, or sort of their field of science. So you could have all of your biology apps grouped and all of your second field of science groups. You could group your apps now by any sort of keyword that you like. Next slide, please. So in 2.0, you can also change the layout of the dashboard of this landing page. So you see here the before and after, I switch the sides those things are on. So now the message of the day is on the left-hand side instead of the right-hand side. Open On-Demand 2.0 gives you a lot of flexibility in this landing page, as we'll see. So not only can you pin apps, but you can also rearrange where those widgets are on the screen. Next slide, please. the next slide should show that you can also add brand new widgets to the landing page. So here I've added a new widget that thanks the participants of the PERC 2021 Open On-Demand tutorial. So there's a lot of flexibility in this landing page now because you can add brand new custom widgets, you can rearrange the existing widgets, and of course the pinning apps. That is a big functionality too. Next slide, please. What's new for today is we are launching Kubernetes support. So Kubernetes has been a part of Open On-Demand for a long time now. And we've been rolling it out at OSC for a long time and sort of working out the kinks, working out the rough edges. But today, this morning actually, I just pushed out what is the beginning of our documentation for Kubernetes. So we run it at OSC. We have good muscle memory around it, around how to manage it, run it. The only thing left for us is documenting it, you know, telling you all how you can do this at your site. So again, I just started the documentation this week. We just pushed it online today, so you'll see more updates, you know, this week and next week as we finalize that documentation. But I'm really happy to announce that today because it's been on my plate for years at this point. Next slide, please. So what's in progress? So this is a feature that is in the core mainline right now, and it'll be a part of 2.1. But the idea here is with these Batch Connect apps, a lot of folks write their own custom JavaScript to provide dynamic functionality between two form fields. So here I've got a couple existing features that I've added. The first one is to hide options depending on the current selection. So in this example, I want to hide huge mem node type when the cluster changes to ONs. And you can kind of see that in the middle of the page, that data option for cluster Oakley is false. That it actually, I want to hide huge mem when the cluster changes to Oakley. Sorry, I wrote that wrong. It's backwards. So we're hiding the node type options based off of a different thing's value, based on the cluster's value. The next one is to set the min and maxes. So oftentimes, you know, GPUs on this cluster are one size, GPUs on the other side are a different cluster, or GPUs are a different size on the other cluster. So this provides a functionality where if you make a choice, you can set the min and max, say here, I've got BC num slots. So you can set the number of cores, the min and maximum number of cores available on another form field, you know, sort of dynamically without adding your own JavaScript. And the last one is to set a field based on another field. So that's what's in the second image down there on the bottom right. The idea here is, you know, I want to set the account whenever a user chooses this value, this 2.7 value, I want to automatically set the account to Python 2.7. So again, we're providing functionality, dynamic functionality for different field options to change whenever an existing or whenever a choice is made. So I'm really excited about that because I know that writing your own JavaScript is a pain. So this will sort of start to tackle that pain. Next slide, please. So what else is also in progress? It just got merged this week. Debian. So we're going to start shipping Open On-Demand for Debian platforms, maybe end of this calendar year, the start of the next calendar year. But it'll be in 2.1, or 2.1 will be on Debian systems on Ubuntu 2004. And then another thing just to note is that nightly RPMs are available. So we started to build nightly RPMs every day in the middle of the night, and we deploy those to development systems at OSC. This has only been going on for maybe 3 or 4 weeks, so we haven't actually like promoted any one of those nightlies to production, but we actively work on those nightlies. So if anyone else is feeling sort of a little wild and they want to pull those down and install them, they're more than happy to, or more than welcome to. Next slide, please. I think that may be it. That is it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm just going to end here with, again, my typical pitch of openondemand.org is our website. So this is supposed to be a working session. So, you know, we deliberately wanted to keep the amount of talking that we did up front to a minimum, and I think we've done that. So at this point, we really want to open it up to anything anybody in the audience wants to mention or talk about or ask us about. You know, what I'll probably do is stop sharing here, but if I need to share again, I will. So comments, questions, anything anybody wants to. I see, Rajesh, you have a rookie question. Yes, XDMob integration. Does one of our colleagues from Buffalo want to talk about this? Or if not, Jeff will. Don't all jump up and down.
Yeah, I'm rereading the question. So the link given is good, and that is the existing integration that we have. Job monitoring data. There could be other widgets that we add in the future, but we haven't identified any new widgets that we're actively working on.
This is an ongoing task that we've been doing, and right now you can grab jobs that have been run and you can look at them directly in the job viewer. You can get certain user efficiency information, and there are, as Jeff said, there are more coming.
So Rajesh, just curious, have you seen what it looks like out of the box right now?
No, I was just looking at the screenshots on there, but if you want to show it, that would be great as well.
Okay, yeah, let me log in to our production instance, and I will share my screen and show you what, at least at OSC, out of the box it looks like.
I have a follow-up XDMod question when you're done.
Okay, sure. Give me 1 second here. I have to just authenticate whenever I'm on Zoom, it's a weird bug. My security key, the first time I try to authenticate, it fails, and then the second time it works. Okay, let me share my screen again. This is going to actually not be a very good demo because I haven't run a job in the past few weeks. So it's going to say no data available, unfortunately. But are you all seeing that? Okay, or do I need to make it bigger?
That's fine.
Okay, so you see here on the right-hand side, I don't have any data to show, but what this would normally be is there would be basically rows here, unless Jeff or Travis, you happen to have data to show on yours that you want to flip over. But you know, these widgets by default are showing you some stuff, and then you would open it to get into your XDMod dashboard. We also, actually, I guess, is there anywhere else I can show widgets? I can't think of anywhere else. Hopefully that gives you an idea of it. But again, sorry, I need to learn I just need to start running jobs to have them be available whenever I have to do an impromptu demo like this.
No, that was great. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Yeah, I was just curious what the user-specific UI looks like and what you could do on there. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, Jeff or Travis, do you have stuff that actually would show?
Yeah, not? Yeah, I can share my screen.
Okay, I'll stop my share and let you share then.
If I can figure out how to. You have
Oh,
to
you know
give
what?
me
I wonder if
some
I need to
sort of
promote
rights.
you or something.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me see if I need to. I'm gonna make you a co-host. Now you might be able to do it.
Yes. So if you can see this, so this is the very same image. So we haven't rearranged any of these things. As I say, you can rearrange all these things, but we have job efficiency, core hour efficiency, and recently completed jobs. So here, I have the same widgets. I have the links to our existing XDMod. Maybe this is what you're looking for, like specific jobs that you've ran that you can click through.
That's probably the most interesting one.
Yeah, so it's the same, I'm sure whoever generated this image, I mean, they generate, oh, it looks like Eric. Yeah, so all these blue items here, they're links to whatever your job was. And then all these blue links here are links to your OpenXDMod.
Yeah, when you click on that, you basically open your job in the job viewer.
And is there a way to filter this? Because I mean, the majority of them are probably like interactive apps versus jobs you've submitted through the composer, right? So are there, I guess the name kind of maybe tells you.
Yeah, I mean, this is me because I'm always logging in and booting code server. So this will be just your own, your own. I'm only showing 10 of 63.
Right.
So I've got another link here for perhaps all of my jobs.
All right. Thanks.
Okay.
If I can ask another
Emmett?
follow-up question.
Yes, please. Yes.
So maybe this is not Open OnDemand, maybe it's more of XDMod. So typically, we like, we have used XDMod previously out of Open OnDemand, and we like what XDMod has. Is there, I mean, we basically look at our users based on the grouping that we have for the department or the college they belong to. Are there any additional extensions that will be added or can be enabled for grouping our user base and use the same interface XDMod has within OSC, Open OnDemand? That would be nice.
Joe, you want to talk about the hierarchy?
Yeah, I don't. Can you just? I'm not entirely sure the question. So in XDMod we support a 3-layer hierarchy, which is configurable, so you can put in whatever you want in there. Was the question about how you can view that in on demand, or?
Yeah, I think OnDemand, once the OnDemand integration is there, I think it's all going to be part of the XDMod. If the feature is already part of XDMod, then it's going to be available in OnDemand. So my question is, do I have a way to group my users based on departments or college? And how is there a way to do that? And if it is, then that's awesome.
So in XDMod, yes, there is a way to do that.
Okay.
I can put a link to the online documentation in the chat, or if you just contact us via our support email, which I'll also put in the chat, and then we can have like a direct, help you out directly, pointing you exactly what config files you need to edit.
Good. Yeah. So I used it long back. Now that we are looking at, I mean, we have Open OnDemand and this being integrated, we would like to see that work together. That would be nice. So we'll contact you directly. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions about anything, topics, suggestions anybody wants to offer up?
So I have a question, basic question. So you talked about the passenger apps and interactive apps, right? So do I take like any web service applications, they go in interactive apps? And also, anything that I need to launch on the compute nodes, they need to be in the interactive apps. Is my understanding correct?
Yeah, so basically an interactive app is what you want to use when you have existing software like Jupyter or RStudio on your compute infrastructure, and you just want to sort of expose an interface to those things, to your existing software. So Jupyter is a great case where you have Jupyter on your compute nodes, people can boot them up, but Open OnDemand provides a nice, easy way for users to boot them up, run them, and then access them, seamlessly. So not only are you booting it, but you're accessing it too. So that's where Batch Connect is for. It's for software stacks that you already have on your compute infrastructure, and you just want to provide an ability to start them up and run them. Start them up, run them, and access them. Passenger apps, on the other hand, are for times when there is no UI interface already existing for this thing. And so you're tasked with building the UI. You're tasked with like building a web interface to whatever software stack you're trying to interact with. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But the passenger apps, do I have to run on the front end? Can I run the passenger apps on my compute nodes or?
Oh no, so the passenger apps run on the web node.
Web, okay, yeah.
And the idea here is they will then submit jobs from the web node to your resource scheduler.
Okay, so one follow-up question. So some of the applications I need to run inside my VNC desktop, right? So can I make a generalization that anything that I run inside my VNC desktop, I can directly launch them like Jupyter or RStudio, provided they have some kind of web, running some kind of web service. Is that a fair statement?
Well, VNC is for apps that don't have the web interface. So,
okay.
So that's why we have that VNC. And they're GUI, they're native GUI apps. They're native to Linux and Linux's X window system. So a big use case for those are stuff like Stata. I think MATLAB. That's how we run MATLAB. That's how I'm going to pull up that list too. Okay, yeah, Console, that's how we run Console. That's how we run QGIS and Schrodinger. Actually, them being the web app, I think RStudio and Jupyter are the web apps. I think most of our apps actually have to run through VNC because they don't have their own web interface.
So let me just, I clicked through a whole bunch of stuff real quick here, but let me, as he was doing that, but let me show you here. So on our instance here, I have requested, and you see they're starting, I've requested 3 different things. I've requested just a desktop, a virtual shared desktop. I've requested a MATLAB, and I've requested Jupyter. Now, if you notice on the desktop and the MATLAB ones, they say launch, and they have talked about VNC, no VNC connection. So these are running within VNC. But up here, Jupyter, you notice it looks different. And again, I'll scroll here, you see. So this says launch, and it's got these like compression, image quality things, whereas Jupyter just says connect to Jupyter. We don't have a VNC server running. We just launched Jupyter on a compute node and are now connecting directly to its whole stack. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
and then what I was, go ahead, ask your question, and then I was going to show you something else. But
that's cool. Alan, I have been using Open OnDemand, so now I'm just understand that I have been using without much understanding. So It's good to have, what I can put inside the interactive jobs and what are the things I need to keep under the interactive desktop, like VNC. Um,
Yeah.
so this is, I think, really nice. Gives
Yeah.
me a very clear picture.
What I'm trying to launch here, and I haven't had a chance to, for some reason, Wealth Tricker's not firing up for me. I don't know if Jeff, do you know, or Travis, is there something going on? It's just spinning. But what I was going to try to show you is the fact that, and I can't hear, but those passenger apps, those interactive ones, can get pretty sophisticated. I guess I could pick something else. I don't know what else I would pick. Maybe I'll pick this. None of these awesome ones are working. But you can imagine, like, I'll just use MATLAB as an example. MATLAB, there are many people want to have the graphical interface for MATLAB, but there might be certain use cases where you just have a MATLAB script that you just want to execute. You don't need the whole interface. So you could make a passenger app that says, here, take this MATLAB script that requires no user input and just run it on the system, and then give me back the results, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, wait. The MATLAB you launched through the VNC, right? Yeah. Okay.
Well, we launched through MATLAB. In this instance, I launched it as a VNC, but I could imagine situations where you don't launch it via VNC because you're just using the runtime, the command line runtime, to run some sort of script that doesn't have any graphical interface. It just processes some data and generates some output files. In which case, you could make a passenger app that just says, hey, what's the MATLAB script you want to run? And then it runs it.
Okay. And then this runs on the compute node directly as a batch job, or?
Yes. So if I come over here, if you notice, I've got all three of these things right here. If I come over here to our, wrong one, our job status, active job, and this will take a second just to pull down. This is basically like doing like the equivalent of a queue stat. You can see I've got 3 active jobs on our systems right now. Oh, it's interesting. The MATLAB one got on the GPU backfill. That's kind of cool. I haven't seen that before. And if you look here, so this MATLAB job is on a particular compute node. It tells me the compute node is using 1 CPU. It's giving me all kinds of information about it. In fact, it's also giving me some job metrics here.
Yeah.
So does that help, Paula?
Yes. One more question. So VNC is the default desktop, right? Is there any other desktop I can launch, or anyone try anything?
Mate is one that we run. So go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say we ship with I think all 4 of the big folks. So GNOME, Kadi, Mate, or Mate, and XFCE.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But it depends on what you have on your actual systems.
Yeah, I think any default is good, right? I mean, it doesn't make much difference. I can integrate all the other applications, the desktop icons, right? Once I have the desktop.
Yeah, and I'll point out you can via your various .x Windows files and stuff, you can actually have a desktop launch that fires up with pre-configured icons and stuff on it. So so we have certain interactive apps that instead of having a full-fledged, say, XFCE desktop with all the default icons, it's got none of those. It just has 1 particular or 2 particular icons for a particular app on them. So there's a lot of creative things you can do there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question on the passenger. Sorry.
Go ahead, Amit,
Yeah,
on it, and then
just a
I want to
quick
answer
question.
Greta's chat question. Yeah.
Okay. A quick question on passenger apps. Do they run on the OOD node, or does it pick a compute node to run? Can you design a passenger app to just run on OOD node versus compute node?
They always run on the web server node, on the same node that you're hosting Open OnDemand on. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, technically, the dashboard itself is a
Right.
passenger app. The shell app is a passenger app. Yeah.
Okay. And,
yeah, they can be created such that they then fire off and submit something to your scheduler, or they submit something to, Kubernetes or something like that then runs. But the app itself is running on the front end.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so Greta, you have an interesting question that I'm not sure if I fully get the gist of, but I'm going to try to answer it. And so you're asking about whether you could run an instance that's not connected to a local cluster, which seems kind of strange to me. I'm not sure why somebody would want to stand up an on-demand instance without having any resources, as opposed to just whoever provides those resources. But yeah, can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah, if I could explain a little bit. It is a hypothetical, but that's exactly why you would want to stand up Open OnDemand. I mean, we are able to, from our institution, send jobs via the command line to exceed resources, and many people are familiar with that and know how to do that. What I was wondering is what it would take, as I was thinking that this application, the conversation that we're having right now, would be a mechanism for smaller institutions that do not have local clusters, but may have like an Exceed project or Exceed resources that they're using. Can we stand up Open OnDemand essentially as a portal for the scientists that are at the institution to work with and to use, and then to run their jobs, through an Exceed project without having to go through all of that knowledge? I mean, all the things that Open OnDemand does for our researchers, right?
Yeah.
But leverage the Exceed resources directly.
Okay, so let me high level talk about this, and then I'm sure Jeff will want to jump in with some details. So high level, just some things to share with. One is that, and I see Joe is on here and Maytal was on here earlier. You might have heard them talk past 2 days about the common resource, I'm forgetting the name, it's RC something. Joe, can you help me? What's the name?
Sure, the common resource description language for.
Yes, thank you. That's it. Yeah. So that definitely, I think, is in the vision of part of this, where a resource provider provides up as part of the common resource language or as part of TAPIS, and you can connect to that via OnDemand. We're not fully there yet. That's something that we're very interested in, have on our roadmap, but it's not fully integrated out of the box into OnDemand. There's Exceed has on their roadmap, they're going to offer up a OnDemand portal standard in front of all of their resources. I don't know if Carol's still on, but I know SDSC with Expanse has been doing some of this idea of being able to have an on-demand instance fire off into cloud resources and various disconnected resources. So I think what the answer here is that there's a lot of maybe different approaches to this, and what it really comes down to is behind the scenes, authentication. How are the accounts being authenticated? How is data being moved around? Things like that. At this point, I'll open this up if I've missed any high-level concepts or anybody else wants to chime in. I don't know of any out-of-the-box way to do it right now, but there's definitely lots of different people that are looking at approaches.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to jump in. I mean, we're very excited about the possibility of being able to do this through Open On Demand, through SGCI resource, inventory descriptions, and yeah, and potentially with Tapas as a back end, or any other back end. I think this would really open up a lot of possibilities. But it does come down to some extent to exactly what Alan mentioned, the authentication and the authorization at the local sites. So we'll have to have a way to basically pass that in from the authentication that's taken place in the Open On Demand instance all the way down to the Exceed resource. I think that this is.
If I could ask a question like a little bit more detailed on that, because
Sure.
okay, so Exceed does a number of single sign-on solutions. And Internet 2 provides the networking usually from these sites over there, over to Exceed sites. If an institution either works with SHIB or works with pure Kerberos, where even the data storage can handle a curb ticket, have we then mitigated that identity issue?
I mean, I'd say that we have pieces, that we can use, but we still have an engineering problem, which is to tie all these things up together. Yeah, I mean, we have ingredients, like you mentioned. There are single sign-on solutions. So we have ingredients to solve this. But there's there's a fairly significant engineering problem to actually integrate those things and make them work together, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. That's kind of what I was wondering about. I didn't know if anybody has already started working in that direction.
There's another approach to this that I'll also mention we haven't described so far, and that's you could, depending on how you configure this, you could rely upon some of the built-in capabilities of the schedulers, in particular Slurm, to talk across different scheduler instances and different, so for example, we have IBM has been talking to us about LSF, and LSF is something that has some sort of multi-cluster talk back and forth things, and so you could install locally a on-demand instance on a VM plus a Slurm instance on a VM, and if you configured it smartly, and that Slurm instance can talk to a Slurm instance at whatever the resource provider, then you would submit to your local Slurm instance that would then send it over to that resource provider and then come back. Does that make sense, Greta? Or are you familiar with any of that at all?
So one more follow-up question, then I want to let other people have time. By the way, Joe, I did see the talk on Tapas and the other earlier talks. They were very good and interesting. So I do appreciate you being willing to speak up and contribute to the conversation here. So just to relate it to something that we have some familiarity with, is that like Pulsar that Galaxy is using currently? So Galaxy Main is at Penn State. Galaxy Main is running at TAC. I guess Joe is probably pretty familiar with that. Maybe, I don't know how large the groups are. And they use Pulsar to send jobs across to various Exceed sites. And so that is something that we are able to tap into. I guess I was kind of wondering, would there be some value in us pursuing the same sort of approach that Galaxy has taken for Open On Demand? So
Joe, I don't know
the same
anything
thing
about
as what you
Pulsar,
just,
so.
yeah, I was gonna say, it sounded exactly like what you were saying for LSF from IBM. It really, they set up communications where it actually handles, it's like the scheduler for the schedulers, right? So it handles, passing off the jobs to different locations.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, I don't really want to speak to like the degree to which that's a good solution for Open On Demand. I'll let the Open On Demand people talk about that. But yeah, I mean, but conceptually, you're absolutely right. This is another like tool in the toolbox or ingredient we can use, if that makes sense.
So, Jeff, do you want to chime in here at all? I mean, we already do this. I mean, for example, at OSC, we've got multiple schedulers, and they're talking, kind of back and forth with one another a little bit, and OnDemand is talking to these different ones. But there's differences there because they're sharing home directories, and we don't have to worry about data being passed around. So I think that that's where some of the complexity would come in of the files being transferred around, right, Jeff?
Yeah, a little bit. There ideas were floating around about SSHFS and using SSH to, I'm going to shell into TAC and execute the commands and then just kick out. But yeah, as Alan said, I mean, there's an Exceed project going on where they're working on this project, and we've added a couple patches to allow for it. So I mean, it's definitely something that'll happen at some point. But good tip about Pulsar. I've never heard about Pulsar, so I'm going to look into that.
Thank you so much. I mean, obviously the Holy Grail here is, as we talk about, outreach to different colleges and to different high schools even, the ability to set up a portal that can leverage the supercomputing sites so that nobody gets left behind would be amazing, especially for those in different disciplines that don't have the background to be able to design these portals.
Yeah, Greta, you're absolutely right. We've seen that just at OSC. It's amazing the scientific disciplines that are now using our resources in like classrooms and stuff that I wouldn't have even imagined 3 or 4 years ago. We've got horticulture and crop science students that are logging in through OnDemand the supercomputers, anthropology students, architecture students. It absolutely, it is very empowering in that sense. So we are over our time, but we're happy to, the OnDemand team's happy to continue to talk and stay if anybody else has other questions or things. By the way, Greta, what institution are you from? I meant to ask you that.
During the pandemic, we moved over to Cornell University, and I come from Penn State for quite a while. So Penn State was running Open OnDemand, and Penn State, of course, is the original home for Galaxy. And so it's simple for me, I guess, because of the familiarity and the physical proximity to kind of think of these things together in the same.
Okay, great, thanks.
But anyway, it's very nice meeting you. Thank you so much for taking my question.
Yes. Anybody else? The questions, anything you wanted to cover? Okay. Well, thank you so much for attending. This is exactly what we hoped it would be, and hope you have a great rest of your day. And don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have further questions. We love to engage.